Hey, are you? Um, I think they're gonna bring me to Italy twice next year.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but I want to stop and see you on the way. Or I'm gonna make you meet me in Venice.
Italy.
Hi everyone, welcome. If you could just make sure you are on mute when you enter. And if you switch the viewing to speaker view, it will mean that you'll be able to see either myself, Sarah, or Sophie whenever we are talking, and you won't get anyone else coming up on your screen. We'll just give it a few seconds just to make sure everyone's here. Yeah, just make sure you're on mute. Oh, so amazing to see so many of you here. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this evening. I can see a few of you aren't on mute, so if you could just double check for me, just because we don't want any more doorbells or anything going off in the background and making us all jump out our seats.
Unfortunately, I can't go on mute because I have to do this event, but my dog might bark, so you'll be excited to hear that.
Embarrassingly, my dog might bark as well. So, you know,
She
it
just gets so
doesn't matter.
spicy sometimes. Like, so when I'm not giving her attention, I feel like she wants to freak out. Hunter, thank you for doing this. I'm so excited we get to talk to you. And Sophie, I'm so excited to talk to you. You're like obviously my person alive.
I mean, I'm so excited to talk to you both and just like facilitate a conversation. I think we're pretty much there with everyone coming in. So yeah, last few people, if you could just make sure you're on mute. Yeah, it looks like people are here. So yeah, housekeeping is just double check you're on mute. Put the view to speaker view so that you can see either myself, Sarah, or Sophie, rather than the sort of big window of everyone's like little icons and things. Don't ask me how to do that. But I'm sure it's a very simple button somewhere. So I'm sure you've made it here. I'm sure you can figure it out. Cool. So let's get into it. My name's Hunter. I run the Folkestone Bookshop down here in Kent. I also do various book reviews and I run my own small press and things. So I have had my hands on these two books for a long time and I've been very excited to get to actually ask some questions about them. Before we sort of properly get into it, we're going to do some intros, we're going to have a lovely chat, and then there's going to be time at the end for any questions. And we're going to do a giveaway of both books at the end, although I believe Sophie's is actually going to be the US edition, so very lucky winner for that person. And it will be based on the most creative, most interesting question that gets asked. So as we're chatting, have a little think. And then when it comes to the Q&A time, I'll repeat this, but you can just put your questions in the chat box and I will read them out. So I know that you all know who these two are, but I'm going to do a little intro anyway, just because I can, and also because some of the things that I think we're going to talk about are a bit pertinent to their experiences. So we'll start with Sarah. Sarah Rose Etter's novel, The Book of X, won the 2019 Shirley Jackson Award, and her short fiction collection was published as the winner of the Cake Train Award. Her work has appeared in various publications, from Guernica and The Cut to Time and Vice. She was awarded residencies at the Jack Kerouac House and in places such as Portugal and Iceland. In 2017, she was the keynote speaker at the Society for the Study of American Women Writers, where she presented on surrealist writing as a mode of feminism. A little foreshadowing there about what we're going to be talking about. She currently lives in Los Angeles in California, and today we're going to be discussing her novel Ripe, that was published by Verve in August this year. Sophie Mackintosh's novel The Water Cure was longlisted for the Man Booker in 2018. In 2020, alongside publishing her novel The Blue Ticket, Sophie was picked as one of the faces set to define the decade ahead by the Vogue UK. Her writing has been published in places such as the New York Times, Granta, Dazed, and many others, including many that touch on interdisciplinary writing and thought, such as writing in reaction to various artworks and designers. Her residencies include the Paris Writers' Residency, the Prague City of Literature, and the Gladstone Library. She currently lives in London, and the novel we're discussing today is Cursed Bread, which was published by Hamish Hamilton in March of this year. So thank you both for joining us this evening.
Thank you. Thanks for those great intros. You did just the right amount of intro.
Okay, I'm glad. I basically picked all my favorite things from your experiences. So the way I sort of want to structure my questions is we're going to start with a couple of questions about like the background of your novels, like the sort of inspo and ideas behind them, then move a little bit onto like the themes of them, and then like the structure of the novel, and then hopefully if we get time I'd love to talk a little bit about the sort of reaction to them after they've been published as well. So sort of starting in reading out your bios, name drop some authors such as like Shirley Jackson, Jack Kerouac. Sophie, I know that you were on the Vogue UK list along with Gia Tolentino. So I'd love to hear about both of your like literary inspirations. Like, what were you reading when you were writing these books?
Selfishly, I want to ask Sophie to go first because I really want to. We were just saying before we started, we haven't had a chance to talk about Cursed Bread yet, which is one of my favorites. So I'm going to, Sophie, if you go first, I would love to know what you were reading when you wrote that.
Oh, so when I wrote Cursed Bread, I wrote it basically all of it during lockdown. So I was reading a lot of like, I don't know, I was kind of reading everything because I had a lot of time to read and I was just like very absorbing it. But I was reading a lot of like Marguerite Duras. I was kind of going back to some old favorites. I was reading like a lot of like French authors like Annie Ernaux. I was also reading a lot of Javier Miralles, who's one of my favorite authors. He was a Spanish author. I think I was just like I had time to really get into like kind of twisty, kind of propulsive, intricate plot and stuff, but like more generally, I kind of my influence to be like Angela Carter, like obviously like Margaret Atwood is one as well, but I think for this one it was almost like I was getting so sucked into things that were like very unreliable and like was it like super intense. It was a weird time.
I didn't realize that you wrote this during lockdown. I wrote mine during lockdown too, so that's kind of fascinating. Did you? I don't know if you do this sometimes. Before I write a book, I pull like a little stack together of the other books I want to be in conversation with, like as like my like totem. And so I definitely had like, like Sylvia Plath was on there, like The Bell Jar for sure, and Played as It Lays by Joan Didion, and the Copenhagen trilogy by Toby Ditlevson. I love that so much.
The idea of like a conversation.
Oh, go ahead.
I love that idea of like a stack in the conversation. I'm gonna steal that.
I just let myself have like 6, and then it helps me because I know sometimes when I go to read while I'm drafting, it can be really disruptive if I pick up the wrong thing. Are you like that? Where like if you,
I think I like gravitate to like nonfiction sometimes if I am like, depending what kind of draft I'm on, but yeah, you're like, oh my god, it's so much better than what I could write. And now I'm like, okay,
that's when I usually start reading the nonfiction in the New Yorker. That's like all I can handle, because I'm like, if I read someone else's voice that's like too good or jarring, I'll get like thrown off, but also Hangsman by Shirley Jackson, that book really unravels at the end and goes kind of insane, and that gave me like a lot of freedom for the end of this book to just let it go off the rails a little bit. But yeah, I think those are probably the big ones. There are more. There's a book called Problems by this writer, Jade Sharma. I don't know how easy it is to get that one in the UK. I'm not sure if it's over there, but that's really amazing. Yeah, I don't know. I've read so much. I mean, it's hard to always remember,
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I've written down so many of the books you've just mentioned though. So there goes my TBR for the next few months. When I was reading both the books, I felt like they were both quite like emotional, and I don't mean that in a sort of like weepy way, but just the emotions like were so strong throughout them. And I feel like what you were just saying as well about like being taken out of your draft by reading the wrong thing sort of relates to that, sort of getting in that headspace and then just being so overwhelmed with it. And like when I was reading Ripe, I feel like the overwhelming emotion for me was definitely like quite like angry and like rage. There was a lot of rage. And then with Cursed Bread, it was a lot more of a like slow sort of build of emotions. And like I feel like by the end I was very conflicted, but yeah, I just came away from both of them sort of feeling like I needed a minute to sort of myself. And like, I just wanted to know if did you feel like that when you were writing them? Like, how was the sort of emotional process of like coming up with the ideas and then like initially drafting them? Like, did they sort of suck you in? Did you feel like you were in this world? Like, how sort of, yeah, emotionally, how did it take a toll on you?
I just wanted to say really quick, I love how you're talking about Cursed Bread, because it does have a slow burn to it, but then the end of it is just so psychotic. Like the final scenes are just so harrowing. And then I'm like, that's why she's my friend. I was like, oh, this is why. Like we both kind of get to the same place, and we've just maybe do it a little bit of a different way. But yeah, I mean, I'll let you start with the emotional state for Cursed Bread. I would love to hear that.
I definitely think like we are definitely kind of mining the same emotional territory. Just like it's really interesting you're saying that, like doing it in like different ways. And like yeah, I definitely was like in a very I was in an intense place writing it. I remember actually it was quite interesting because I was originally writing it from Violet's point of view, who is like a character in Cursed Bread, who Elodie, the main character, is like obsessed with. And she was like, I always envisioned her as like quite like empty inside, and like in the actual writing of it, I was like, oh, it's like kind of not coming alive for me, because I think I'm in like such a intense place myself. I need to be like writing someone intense, and not like I don't believe in like necessarily like channeling all my feelings through writing, but like I mean, it's definitely like they had to go somewhere. And I guess it was something I felt a bit more equipped and more interested in writing about as well, because it's like, I don't know, I think we don't give enough importance to these strong emotions, or it's easy to be like, I'm not supposed to feel that, or I don't want to feel that, or like hysterical and kind of brushing off hysterical women. So it was really important for me to be like, yeah, like this can be the driver of the book, the fact that she is like kind of unhinged, and that's fine.
Well, it's also fascinating because like applying what I guess it's not a modern emotion. It's like, but to apply that to a historical situation or something that's based in that is like kind of fascinating as like a way to work through something that is kind of timeless, right? Like, because it is so timeless to feel like the woman who's like being hysterical and making too big of a deal out of everything. And so they are similar in that way, because I think the character in Ripe is doing the same thing. Like if you step back, you could be like, she's being hysterical because the headlines are hard, but like it's not just that, it's everything all at the same time. And for, your character going through like a society that doesn't want to hear from women at all, like just like, especially in that time, is so brutal. Can I ask you a question about process? Like when you do a first draft, like how long does it usually take you? Like what does it look like for you?
Like quite fast, like a first draft, kind of draft zero, like maybe like 6 weeks, or I try and like just basically word vomit it out. It for like a really long time after, because I'm like, I just want to like get it out. And but then it will change so much. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I work full time, so this one took like 5 months probably, because I was working on nights and weekends. But the Book of X was like I was in Iceland for a month and I got that out in a month, so that was pretty quick. But I will say definitely there are, when I outline, I don't know, do you outline? Are you an outliner?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
But
okay.
very roughly. Super roughly.
When I outline, I kind of flag the scenes that are going to be really intense, that I know I'm going to have to like go into a place for myself that's going to be kind of brutal. So that day when I sit down, I know like, okay, this is the day you're going to need extra self-care. You're going to need to order dinner. You're going to be wrapped in a blanket on the sofa by the end of this, because there are scenes like, and maybe for you, I don't know if it was like that penultimate scene or that big scene for Cursed Bread. There are scenes that are like brutal. You're like emotionally kind of like hitting all the things in yourself that are really painful, like all the things we go to therapy for. We're like let me go in there and just like poke around. And then you get to do it again while you're on the press junket, right? That's when all the reporters are like in your stuff asking questions. Like, I forget who I was talking to, but someone was like, so how's your relationship with your mom? And you're like, oh my God, let's not.
I benefit like historical fiction as well, though, that you kind of you have. I really found like I had to remove who's like, hey, I'm poking around in these feelings, but like it's not me. It's definitely not me. It's like it's really far away from me. It's happening like in the past. So I just find it like weirdly easier than I guess writing like Blue Ticket, which I did definitely get like what you like said about like having to like go into myself a bit and be like, oh, this is like challenging to be there. But when I was reading Ripe, I was like, I felt like I had just my breath held the whole time. I could feel you.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard with Ripe because I keep thinking about, and like Sophie, I'm sure you're gonna have a thought on this. I keep thinking about art as a product of like a circumstance and a place and a time. And with Ripe, it was like, my father had died and we went into lockdown. And so I just found myself like really forced to just be with like grief. And he had asked me to write this book a bunch of times. And I don't think I would have written it. Like when I think about, what project I would have taken on, I don't know that I would have done this because it's very in a place, in a time, which I don't love to do. I like to do like surreal work that's like hanging in a place, that doesn't exist anywhere, right? Like I swore to myself I would never have a cell phone or text messages in anything that I ever fucking wrote. But I think when he passed away and I had all this grief and I didn't have like anywhere to go. I couldn't, you know what I mean? Like I couldn't go get drunk at the pub. I'm going to say pub because I'm with Sophie. I'm like, I couldn't, go get wasted with a friend. I couldn't go see my family. I had to just be with it. And so I wonder sometimes, I don't know that I ever would have been able to write this if I didn't also have like this just massive amount of grief and have this, someone's like, how do you finish a book? And I was like, this one was kind of easy because you just are doing it for somebody that you really love, so that's definitely in there. And I think it is like in the book. Everyone's like, it's so sad. I'm like, I was so sad. Of course it's so sad. I was so sad, but I don't know, like part of me is like, I don't know if I could ever write like that again, or else I'd have to have befall some like terrible tragedy.
That's so interesting that you say that, because I feel like, well, like, so this events evening is called like Women on the Edge, right? And like the fact that you sort of had that huge life upheaval and then immediately went into COVID, like what a sort of precipice to fall off. Like I can completely see now how the main character, she feels like she's constantly stood on a cliff's edge and you just don't know if she's going to fall, if she's going to jump, or if she's going to like run backwards. And I think that's like tension. And I can totally, now you're saying that, I can understand where that came from.
I mean, also too, I did live in Silicon Valley for a year and I did feel very much like I was standing on the edge of the earth and just watching it collapse, because you saw all these horrible things. And then there was a group of people that was just walking through the city with a ton of money who didn't seem to see it. It was like, you know what I mean? It was like living in two cities at the same time, because you had people who were struggling and then you had people who had enough money to like walk past that on a Saturday in the sun and seem to be like untouched by it. And it made me feel very much like an outsider, because I almost missed a date the other day because we were driving and I saw someone had left a dog on the side of the highway. And I was like, I can't deal with this. Like, I have to go help this dog, and it's like, sometimes I see something like that in the world and it just like catches you like in the heart. And you're just like, no, like this can't happen, And so I think that was a lot of how I felt in San Francisco. But then I saw other people who seemed so happy there, and it seemed like they were just so removed from everything else that was going on. And so that was an easy feeling to tap into it. And how I felt terrible when I lived there energetically. It just felt so jangly and everything felt wrong, And so, yeah, that is also part of it. It's not just like the grief and the isolation from COVID. It was also that city felt like it was really falling apart,
That's like when you were saying about sorry, because you were saying about, you said you'd never write a surreal book, but then like the fact that you managed to situate the surreal so amazingly like in right, like in the city, in the like the jangling city, like I really felt that sense of like things falling apart, like you say, and you know the strangeness, and you know the black hole. It was just I loved it.
Yeah, it's I I don't know. I think it's very easy right now to feel like we're all alone in the feelings, but of watching a lot of bad stuff happen at the same time, because it's how it feels, you know, every day. It feels like you wake up and there's something else shitty happening.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying that and then I'm laughing like I just told a joke.
Wake up in the UK and we're like twice the temperature is supposed to be, and you're like, fine.
No?
The
Yeah.
world's on fire, but we're all just that dog that's like, it's fine.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah, I think that's yeah, I think what you're saying is super interesting as well, because I feel like both the books, the main character feels so like isolated and like so separate from everyone else that they're like interacting with. And yet like there's so many differences about the two books, but like as soon as you put them together, you can just see these like through lines. And I think, yeah, what you're saying about sort of feeling like an outsider is definitely replicated in both of them. And I feel like Elodie especially is like so concerned with how other people are interacting and how they're perceiving her as well. And my immediate thought was then like, well, you're both like women who are writing and therefore like being put in the sort of public eye to a certain extent. So I'm not surprised that that sort of idea of perception is really strong. So like maybe Sophie, you could talk a little bit about like how it was sort of writing something that is essentially a little bit meta because you're sort of thinking about how you're being perceived, or was for you because it's historical, it's like you were saying earlier, like a bit more separate.
Yeah, I think because it was historical, it did give me that sense of separateness, and because I really like, there's definitely bits about Elodie that I identify with, but like she's very much like a fictional character, even if I kind of have like wrote it from a place that was like emotional. I think I was mainly just, I didn't want people or like readers to kind of disregard her as hysterical, because I found like that was something that happened with my first book, The Water Cure. And I think there is like maybe a little bit of a sniffiness, especially in the UK at the moment, towards like, oh, like women who are like self-involved, and like, you know, have we not moved beyond like talk of the body, and you know, like women like making a fuss kind of thing. And it's like, well, actually, like these are still like very radical places to talk about, and, you know, it's like very important things to explore. And I don't think like, you know, like feelings of like desire and the darkness that can kind of lead you to, like, these are, you know, these are important questions. And because of the historical context as well, because you know, of the time it was set in, and because of the background of the war as well, it was really interesting to me to kind of you know, explore like how she would be seen as well in like that context, and how that would make a difference to her perception.
I didn't know there was a sniffiness happening.
Maybe I'm being oversensitive. I just feel like there's a lot of like, ugh, more hysterical female books, and I'm like, hey.
No, I did see a piece about like how there's too many sad girl books or something. I saw that like floating around, and it was just like, you know, men have been sad in literature for the whole time. Like, why why are we not allowed to like they've been doing it for how long? Centuries? It's got to be. And now we're doing it and it's like a problem. Like, I don't know. Also, it bothered me. I got into a fight on Twitter with like probably the head of a big publishing house in America because she was asking for happy books. And it was like, what are we? I'm not a jukebox. Like, you can't just like walk up to me and like press a button and be like, happy song. Like,
there's an article in the Times that it was very like, oh, all these like self-involved books. It was like, what happened to like writing about wars? And I was like,
I
it's literally a war in quiz spread. So well, it was like very recently. It was like, why are the like, you know, why it was like, let's go back to like real novels. And I was like, it's just ridiculous.
They talk about historical fiction giving you like a little bit of that buffer, because I did feel that way for a while about the surrealism, especially in the Book of X. It was like a way of hiding, and then I could be like, it's not my real life, there's a meat quarry, come on, you know. But like with this, it was a lot harder because it was like so authentic. And so and also too, there is this challenge of like, if you're a woman writing fiction or you're not a cis man writing fiction, your fiction is always perceived as biography, right? They're going to ask you all the time, like, oh, this happened to you, right? And so I am jealous that you got to go through a press cycle where people didn't automatically assume that it was you.
Yeah, no, definitely the buffer is, I think it's really useful, but I think it's something I need in all my work, really. Like, I think that's why I kind of always gravitate to more like speculative or like surreal kind of narratives, because it's like, well, you kind of have a bit of a distance, and I found it even more, with Cursed Bread, and it was useful. You can kind of push things a little bit further, I think.
Am I allowed to ask Sophie a question?
Yeah, for sure, of course.
When you were outlining Cursed Bread, like, how did you go into the structuring of it? Like, what were you thinking about when you did that? I was just so curious.
I feel like I found it really hard to find the right like narrative voice. Like I said, I studied through Violet, and then I was doing it through like a course of like omniscient ghosts, and then I finally hit on Elodie, and I was like, yes, here we go. And I was like, why has it not occurred to me? She's like the most important character, but I just need to try it out. So I think it was actually like super messy, and I think like when it comes, I can like structure like the actual like plot, but I think when it's like about how to tell it, I have to just like try things out. And then I think the letters came in like fairly late as well. It was just like I really wanted to get a bit like a second narrative and to be addressing Violet. So yeah, it's kind of, I mean, yeah, trial and error, unfortunately.
You're like, no, that makes sense.
And what about for you, Sarah? Because like I feel like obviously yours has like quite a distinctive sort of narrative structure as well, with the like definitions and the sort of like related like flashbacks. Like what about how did you go about that?
I don't love flashbacks, so I just wanted to find a way to do it so that you just got enough information so that her decisions made sense. And I hate when I have to do like, when I was 12, this happened. And then when I was 13, this happened. Like, I don't know. I'm not great at that. It's not my favorite. But I did want there to be like, I think in your 30s is when you start to really consider that the way you were raised might not be the way you want to live, right? And like the model your parents' marriage showed you, and like the reason you have the job you have and all the decisions you made, like could those be partially because you have your parents' hands at your back, or because these are all the structures you saw? And so I think this is kind of like someone who is right on the edge of realizing like her life does not need to be the way that she's been told. Because even her father, even if he's like, everyone always like refers to him as like the good character, but he is also like forcing her to basically act like a man, right? Like he's forcing her to like participate in capitalism and like have a business mind, and like he is kind of passing on to her this mindset that might not work anymore. So the flashbacks were that. And then I don't know, for me when I'm writing, I always want to try to do something a little different because I get bored really easily, and so if I'm bored, it's very hard for me to like keep going back. And I think sometimes I take that stuff out during editing. Like I think about this book all the time. If I took away all the structures, like could it just survive as the text? And sometimes it stays something that was for me. Like if you look at the book, the layers of the pomegranate are the layers of the story, right? Like the first section is her outer life, it's her work, and then it just goes deeper and deeper until you're in her body, right? And that was just a way for me to make sense of it. And sometimes it stays in, and other times like my editor or my agent will see it and be like, this sucks, take it out. and then then you never see it. Like the definitions, like you could probably have taken those out. That's the one I get roasted for, but like no one told me to take them out during editing. They were for me. They weren't really for the reader. Sometimes you have to like put up tent poles so you can keep going. And so yeah, it just depends on who yells at me. if they yell at me before it goes to print or not.
That's so interesting that you say that, like, because I think like the definitions for me of like my favorite part of the book, like I love the way that it structures it, and I love the way that you could read the text coming after it and have one perspective on it, and then as soon as you read the sort of essentially the title you've given it, it just reminded me so much of like poetry, where you can read the poem and you can get one idea of it, and then you read the title and it can completely shift of what you think about it. So yeah, I love them. I think it's great that they're in.
I mean, I think like in a nerdy way, it was trying to get the feeling of like when you hear a word, it might trigger a memory, or like when you smell someone's perfume and it like takes you back to like the first boy you ever kissed in high school. But you know, I don't know. I don't know what I was gonna say. I was gonna say something else. I don't know. I feel like you're always editing yourself. I don't know if you're like this too, Sophie, but it's like a book in my head. Even when I read it, I'm always like changing sentences, and people in the audience are like, "That's not what it said in the book," and I'm like, I would have fixed it. Do you do that?
I do that. I think that's kind of fun. It's like, oh, every time it's like slightly different. I feel like, you know, there's never, I mean, obviously there's a time when it feels like complete to me, but I could probably like, you know, leave it and go back to it and change it again. Like, you know, I feel like I could really mess with it forever.
I know. I was actually talking to Roxanne about this, Roxanne Gay, when we did an event. Like, do you go back and read your own books? Because I don't, and she does. And she's like, I wrote some great books. And I'm like, I will never read my books again. Like, I will read them on tour.
If I mean, I don't do it for fun, but like if I have to refer back for like something, like if I'm teaching or whatever, and then I'm like, my book, and then it's like, it's so strange. It's like, because I feel like you know, like it was me, the water cure. I mean, I wrote it in 2016, so like it was 7 years ago, and I was like, it changed a lot between like 34 and 27.
Yeah. God, you wrote that when you were such a baby. You're so smart. Oh my God, I can't.
At the time, I was like, I gotta write a novel. Like,
yeah, I think it's hard for me to go back and read them, because it's like whenever you write a novel, I mean, at least I don't know if you're like this, but like my goal is like, what is the best thing I'm capable of right now? And then you try it again, and you hopefully are capable of even better. You know what I mean? But like when I look at it, I'm like, I just want to edit it. Like, so now I'm like, I should take the definitions out, you know, and it's like, it's too late, babe. Ship sailed.
I wonder if part of like what Roxanne Gay was saying is that like I wonder if part of that comes with age and just sort of an acceptance of like, oh yeah, that was right for me at the time, whereas maybe when you're a bit more closer to it, there is a tendency to sort of you can still remember a little bit of your thought process and who you were, and you're a bit like, oh, I want to fix that younger version of myself a little bit more.
Yeah. Or like you see how ambitious you were and like things you would have done differently, you know. There are things that I'm like, oh wow, you were really trying. You really gave it a shot.
I just remember like the thing that I really miss about like writing books then was like, I don't know, like I remember when I was writing the water cure, like I was just had such a sense of like joy, which I still, it sounds really bad because it sounds like I don't have it anymore. I still definitely have it, but like it was like such an experience. I don't know, it was like so like, oh my God, this is like my weekends and my evenings. I'm so happy to do it. I'm just like so excited. Like no one's ever gonna read this except like hopefully my agent, and like maybe it will get published, but like there's no guarantees, but just like fun. And now it's like, okay, book, I've done this, I can totally do this. And then I'm googling like how to write a book, and then I'm like, I remember when this was just like, I was obsessed. I was totally obsessed. I'd be working on it before work, and I'd send it to my iPad, and then I'd be like editing it on the iPad on my commute because I was like stood up, so it was like there with like pages, and I was like, oh, how do I get that energy back?
No, I think about it, I think this brushes up against the question of like being perceived, right? Which is like, there's this beautiful private bubble you can go into when you're making the work, where like you're not thinking about the capitalism part, you're just thinking about what's the best thing for the project. But then over the course of it coming out, you get like flipped inside out, and then everybody can have it and have thoughts on it and have questions about it, and it's just totally different skill sets. Like the skill set required to complete it is different than the skill set required to sell it, and there is like this kind of marked moment where you've just flip the switch. But I can't wait to go back in the bubble. I'm like, I'm gonna go somewhere for a month with like no phone, away from America, a different time zone, hide, and then come back out with something.
That leads me perfectly onto a question that I wanted to ask you both, so thank you. I feel like you've both lived and written in like so many different places, right? We talked, like both of you have done like different residencies, and like I know that you both sort of like have grown up and lived and now live in different places. So like how much of where you are influences what you're writing at the time? Because actually, well, Sarah, you mentioned that you lived in Silicon Valley, but you weren't writing right when you lived there, were you? So it's interesting to sort of think about yeah, that sort of side of things. So yeah, how much does where you are have an influence on what you're creating?
I think I needed to leave San Francisco to write about San Francisco. I think about that a lot. The pace was too crazy. I was working 90 hours a week. There was no way. I actually, as soon as I think I was in San Francisco for like 2 months, and I was immediately like, I got to get out of here. I'm never going to be able to write a book, because when you take a job, especially in tech, it's like you interview with them for like 8 hours or whatever, and then you make a decision. And it's not until you actually get there that you understand, because everyone's like, our culture is great, we have work-life balance. And then you get there and it's like, just kidding. You better fucking be here. And like, so I think I needed to leave that city for sure to ever write again. And I don't know if Sophie feels this way, but I am kind of a little bit of a restless soul, and I don't really feel afraid of moving. Like, I think some people are a little more tied to like, I am a homebody, right? Like, I like my creature comforts, I like my dog, I like my candles, I like to have my things, but I don't feel a lot of like fear of moving. But then part of this is like, to be honest, political. Like, I would have stayed in Austin if they didn't take all my rights away, and it's like crazy to me, because I'm like, I should be getting like a refund from the government for having to move, because you literally took away my fundamental rights. So it's a little complicated. Most of the time I've moved because a job has relocated me. And then the last time I moved, this is the first time I ever picked the city for myself, and I chose to come here. So it's been kind of nice. It's like liberating in a way. Yeah. I don't know if that helps. Yeah. It's mostly been for work. I don't know if Sophie's in the same boat.
I mean, I feel like I've lived in London for like 11 years now, and I feel very like, it's my city. And I've definitely, I mean, a couple of when we kind of started coming out of lockdown a bit, I went to do, I had like 2 residencies basically arranged for 2020, which didn't happen. So I did them in 2021 in tandem. So I had like 2 months in Prague, and then I had a month in Paris. So I was out of the UK for 3 months. And that was kind of when I was editing Cursed Bread. So it was really, Prague in particular was amazing, because I literally had this incredible apartment. I was alone. I basically knew 2 people in the whole city. So I just had all this time to work, and I found it like a really transformative time. But Paris was a bit more like crazy. But I think like being out of the UK, I didn't feel like it made that much difference to my work. I think it's more about like what's happening with the space when I am there. So like London can be crazy, or London can be quiet, as long as I kind of just, I guess, have a place to work. But residencies have been really important for me, because especially like if they're in the middle of nowhere, just having like a month to really focus. And I mean, I did one at Gladstone's Library in North Wales, and I think I wrote like a couple of drafts of Blue Ticket maybe in a month, because all I had to do was write. I was so in it. I wrote, I read, I ran, all my meals were like sorted out. I didn't even have to do my own laundry. Like it was well, I did. Yeah, no, maybe I didn't have like any chores. It was like crazy. And I was like, this never happened. And it's like, it's not like a real life situation. But yeah, I feel, yeah, I do. When I came back from the 3 months, I was like, I had such a good time. And then when my train pulled into St. Pancras, I was like, London is my home. And I feel really lucky like to have that. And like, yeah, I'm from Wales, and that's important to me as well. But I think like, because I've lived here, I guess, yeah, for such a long time now.
I do think what you're saying is super important. There's almost a way in which you have to be taken away from your own friends and family, because like they will disrupt you at any turn, And so I just like Sophie, like maybe we should just meet somewhere for a month and don't talk to anyone except each other. Like if you ask me my perfect writing day, it's like I wake up, I maybe go for a long walk, drink a bunch of coffee, write for like 7 hours, and then have a nice dinner with someone. Like if I can do that for a month, I'm stoked, but like it's very hard when you're in your real life, when you're on the same time zones as everyone else, as when you're available, because you do want to be there for people, right? Like it's very hard to stay, if your friend needs you or wants to see you, it's very hard to stay in your house and be like, no, you know what I mean? Like, so there is something really important about leaving home. It's nice to know you can come back to it, but like there is nothing like, I mean, I remember too, when I went to Iceland, it was like right after Trump got elected, and what a privilege to be able to leave the noise of America, which was just such a shit show, and rightfully so, and go to like this quiet, idyllic landscape and a cabin where like I'm not even on the same news cycle anymore. Everyone doesn't have an opinion every day. It's not like, anyway, it is a luxury and a privilege to be able to leave, especially at a time like that. But it also does give you like the space you need to make work. I mean, I'm jealous of people who write full time and like can just be in that. That's like such a nice way to live. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's really interesting. So I've just checked the time and we're gonna start taking some questions. So if everyone can start popping them in the chat and I will sort of read them out. But we've got one already that we can start with. So this is from Aline, who has asked, at what point in each of your novels were you sure, in quotation marks, that you knew the right ending for your book? I'll let you decide who goes first.
I'm always going to give it to Sophie. I don't know why. Constantly, I'm like Sophie first. I don't know why.
I'll go first because, like, yeah, for me, I knew it needed to end with the poisoning. I think this is like one of the easier parts of the book for me because, like, I mean, the title was given to me basically by the real event, and the ending was given to me by the real event. I was like, I know it has to end with the poisoning. So everything was like leading up to that, and I guess to go back to the idea of structure as well, I kind of imagined like everything is kind of building slowly up to this kind of crescendo, and everything kind of like foreshadowing what was going to happen. So I knew it pretty early on, and I think it was probably the ending might have been, well, some version of the ending was written like very early on as well. I think I wrote the ending probably before lots of the other of the book because I was kind of like I was very like excited about that scene, and I knew it would like be pivotal, and yeah, so it was relatively pain-free for me, if compared to like most books that I write.
So funny because I always say like the scenes in the book should make like a really good painting if someone painted them, and I feel like yours, that final, like that would be such an insane painting if somebody did it, you know what I mean? Like I can like see it. It's so perfect to me. And yeah, and I think I don't know, this Ripe was complicated because they kept discovering new things about black holes while I was finishing it. And so the ending started to take on very different tones. Like they only discovered that it was potentially like a wormhole in there, like right before it went to print. And that was kind of a great loophole for me because like otherwise it was very like suicidal ideation. And so thankfully the scientists kind of saved me. The astrophysicist community really helped me with that. And I don't know, it's hard. I've tried to write a hopeful ending for it and it just sounded so wrong and corny. And so I think for this one, the ending was just like letting myself be dark and not trying to wrap it up and make it nice, because it's not, you know what I mean? It's still not nice right now, you know.
I feel like the last question that we just got in pertains exactly to what you were just saying. So Chloe's asked, in your life and in your work, are you chasing the void or is the void chasing you? And do the voids ever intersect?
I'm like, Sophie, you go. I'm like, I'll let Sophie go first.
I think I've had like some of the void. Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe by writing these books, we do kind of think about like the void, or whatever, these kind of emotions which are difficult to think about, and these places it's hard to go. It's kind of a way of like getting a grip of the void. I don't know. I feel like I couldn't have one without the other, and I think so that question of like the intersecting is like relevant and definitely like something like, I don't know, I've like always been kind of morbid I guess, and I've always just wanted to like really look at those things that scare me, and what scares me the most is kind of, I guess, like what's inside me. Oh, sounds like so like I feel like I'm like 17, but you know what I mean. I don't know, I guess that those like places in the human like soul, for want of a better word, where you're just like, that those things where it's like, am I like unlovable, like am I terrible, is the world terrible, like how are we supposed to live like this, feeling like this? And so fiction's been really helpful for me, I guess, in terms of grappling with those questions.
I guess in a way fiction is chasing the void, right? Like when you're writing it, you're trying to get to the bottom of like the abyss feeling. And like, the black hole in Ripe is Cassie's depression, but for me it was really, I became obsessed with black holes because I was trying to figure out like, where is my dead father? And that was like the closest thing I could think of to figuring out like how do you get to the other side of something, like where do we go, you know? And so I was like grappling with that. I mean, truly like with the void, because like grief, I had never lost a parent before, and I didn't understand that there was this like new exquisite pain that I had not been aware of existed. And so yeah, I mean, I think in that case, I think the void changes shape and size, and that's kind of what happens over the course of your life. You know, like if you ask me right now, I'm like not severely depressed, I'm okay, which is probably why I'm not writing. Like but I'm sure something is gonna happen, and you know, I'm gonna have to figure it out. Or like, I don't know if Sophie, I don't know if you're like this, but like if I really need to go back into the bad place, I can get there, unfortunately. And I think maybe that's what makes us writers, is that we can go back in there where people, the place where people are always trying to get out of and not be in. We're like, I can go in there and get something out of it, and I'll bring it back for everyone, and I'll tell them all about it.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't. I feel like I can go back to that place, but I can't actually. If I'm in the place, I find it very hard to do anything. So yeah, like this summer, I'm like, where did I even go? Like I feel like I didn't hardly wrote anything, and I did obviously write stuff, and I had like other work as well. But I was, yeah, I feel like if I'm like in a kind of better place for myself, then I'd rather like dip back in and be productive in that way, because otherwise I'm just like I can't do anything.
I read a lot during that time. Like when I'm feeling happy, it's like very much more like I'm absorbing other people's work, and that's kind of nice. It's like it's a different kind of work, you know what I mean? It's just different. Yeah. My God, there's so many questions.
So many questions.
I was like, there's gonna be no questions. I said I was gonna have to do a plant in the audience. I was gonna log in with a fake Zoom name.
I'm going to combine a couple of them. So we've got one person, we've got Shannon asking about how he managed to write about such harrowing topics while keeping such a beautiful and sensitive writing style. And then someone else has, Emily's also just particularly called out Sophie's writing style as feeling partway between poetry and prose. And could you talk about the economy in your writing and the editing process? So I feel like those two questions sort of go together, of the sort of beauty in both your writing, like does that come in the writing or in the editing, or a bit of both? And like how do you sort of approach that?
I mean, for me, it's in the editing. Like this is why I'm such a big fan of outlining. I don't want my editing to be spent on like blowing up the plot. And so if I can go into with a first draft that has a good plot and that can't be fucked with, like I don't have time in my life. I'm never going to publish a book if I don't at least get some basics down, so that when we're editing, we're asking like more existential questions, and then we're focusing on the poetry of a line versus like, you know, I get rid of this whole character, blow, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to spend my time like that. So yeah, I mean, I think most of my time for I think the first draft took like 5 months, and then we edited for like 3.5 years. Like, it's like, you know what I mean? I spent years in the editing, versus like months in the first draft. I don't know if it's the same for Sophie, but yeah. Also, I'm a big fan of poetry for sure. I mean, a lot of my friends are poets. I do believe that, I don't know, sometimes writers like read your novel and they're like, wow, it's really well written. And it's like, fuck you. Of course it's well written. Like that's what the book is. Like, that's not a compliment. But I do understand that like there are some writers who are not as focused on the line. And so I think that can show. Like there are people who can be great at plot and maybe the sentences aren't so hot. So yeah, I don't know. Does that answer the question? I'm not sure if I answered it.
I completely agree. I'm like a huge editor, and I mean I started from poetry as well, so I think I've always like kind of prioritized to a degree like the like aesthetic value of the text, but also I think I'm like such a massive editor. I mean, I do so many drafts. I'm very like not precious about what I throw out, and I think like I'm just a writer who I need to, even because I totally get what you say about outlining, and I do outline, but I just find that I go so off piece, and sometimes I'm like almost tricking myself, and I don't really realize what I'm actually writing about until I'm a few drafts in, which sounds like so wasteful, but because I think I am like basically chucking everything on the page. Like I have I have friends who like, you know, the way they write, they will write like a perfect sentence and won't change it, and they'll spend a long time like getting that sentence perfect before they write it. But I'm more a bit like, and then kind of editing and editing and editing. And so it's like in the actual editing, it's like I figure out what I'm actually trying to say. It's so annoying. But yeah, because I do love the editing process. I think I find a blank screen as well very like scary to me. So that's why I write my first draft so quick, because I'm just like, "Ugh." And then when I have it, I can like get into the bit which I really love, which is the editing, which is the paring down, which is like the thinking on a sentence level eventually, but also kind of, you know, seeing where the tangent's taking me as well.
I do think that, and I don't know if you feel this way, but like I think that you're a great editor if you like hate yourself a little bit. Like you divorce yourself from the work and you're just like pretending someone else wrote it, and it's like, fuck her, this sentence sucks. Like what? Like
if I really feel like I want to keep something, I'm like, oh, it must be actually like really good, because
yes,
it's like, I just want to
I'm
get rid
so
of it.
hard on myself. Yeah. I mean, and also my agent and my editor, I mean, I did 3 rounds of edits with both of them, which at the time, by the 3rd round, I wanted to kill both of them because we were down to shit that was just like, you know, my agent was like, this is the round of edits where it's like sitting next to someone in a movie and they're going, that would never happen like that. And like the spaceship would never sound like that. And you want to kill them. And I'm like, yeah, this is the worst round. So there's definitely times where it drives me nuts. But I do think there's a lot of, I don't know if I'm going to not speak for the UK in this, but like in America, there are a lot of books that are getting published where I'm like, did you guys edit this? And so I'd rather have like 3 rounds with both of them and not have the New York Times being like, this sucks. You know what I mean? Like when I get frustrated with edits, I'm like, do you want your agent to say it or do you want the New York Times to say it? Because it's going to be one or the other, and you better. Then I listen to him. I'm like, okay, yeah, I should have probably.
Yeah. I really love both of your answers. Thank you. Okay, let's do some sort of more quick fire questions. Someone's asked what, if any, music artists you listened to while you were writing.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know, Sophie, I'm gonna go first this one because I can do it quick. I listen to the same songs on repeat when I'm writing a novel because it just like helps me drop back in. But they're really sad and like it's like stuff that would make you cry. There's like a lot of Lana Del Rey. There was a lot of FKA Twigs. There was a lot of like just sad girl shit. It actually like I always joke, I'm like, I should be sent away for how sad this playlist is. Like sometimes people are like, oh, what'd you listen to? And I'm like, I'm not telling you because like it is just so sad. Yeah, FKA Twigs, I see the shout out. Cellophane, like come on, that's like the saddest song. Also, that video could be in MoMA. Like that is art. Yeah, my favorite. Anyway, I don't know, Sophie, if what you're up to.
Sorry, I just yelped because of my cat just brushed my feet. I make like a playlist for every book. But like I feel like I couldn't even say like what's on it because it becomes like not even like the artist anymore. It's just like songs, like random songs and stuff. Not random, like obviously picked with intention, but like almost like I feel like the soundtrack to the movie version, or like what you'd play in the trailer. And I feel like when I hit on the song that is like the trailer song, like, and I can almost like see the whole book like sped up in bits and get a vibe. I'm like, oh, that's like the book is like now sort of like becoming like complete. So it was a nice moment. There's a lot of Sufjan Stevens, a lot of Lana Del Rey as well, actually. A lot like sad music.
Oh,
And like dramatic classical music too.
yeah.
Like,
It has to have like a crescendo that makes you want to throw up. Like it's got to be really strong.
yeah.
On the note of seeing it as a trailer, someone has asked whether your books would be better adapted as series or film, and why.
Ooh, I would kind of love to see Ripe as a series. With you on that, but like I feel like Cursed Bread, because it's kind of short and finite. I guess I think it could be like just a horrible little film that would make me happy.
No, not horrible. I think it would be a great A24. I think that's another reason I feel like very like a strong kinship with you, Sophie. Like I feel like A24 could just have a field day with our work. Honestly, do I prefer a movie or a series? It's like who's paying? Let's be honest. Like when we first of all, I have to say this, like the strike is really hard over here, and there's a lot of my friends who are out of work and it's miserable. And I've stopped like pretty much all of my conversations about this, but we initially wanted to go out with Ripe as a movie, but there is definitely serious interest. And so it's like, I don't know if it's the right person. I think it really depends who's on the project, you know, like I think somebody who's bad could make just as bad of a movie as somebody who's great could make a great series. So, you know, like it really depends who's kicking around, I think.
Right, we are almost at time, so let's do the last few. Sophie, this one specifically for you. Running with the title of your book, are you any good at baking? And have you ever made something so terrible that you would consider it cursed?
I do actually love cooking. Like it's like probably like one of my favorite things after writing. I love cooking, and I do like baking as well. I sometimes have had like I went for times I didn't have a scales, and for some reason instead of like buying a scales, which was very easy, I was just like approximating by eye, and so I've definitely made some like very flat cakes in my time, like semi-raw, disgusting, falling apart things. I think like my probably like disaster is when I've tried to make like I've tried to make a vegan gluten-free cake for my friend, and I was just like, it was inedible. Like I really like improvised so much, and I was like, why am I improvising? I don't know how to bake vegan or gluten-free. And I put like 4 different flours, and I just kept adding more stuff, and I was like, yeah, this is not working, is it?
There is a question in here about how much of writing that's seen as being hysterical women or the sad girl novel, is that more about how women's writing is viewed generally, and have we felt any changes in that as we've published?
Go for it.
It's hard because I definitely like, I don't know if you felt this way, Sophie, but there are definitely times where I'm like, usually before a big review, they'll tell you like your book got assigned to be reviewed, like a couple months before it comes out. Like for the New York Times, they'll say someone assigned it, right? So that means you're going to get a review, but you have no idea who's going to review it or, you know, what it's going to say. And so then you get to spend like 4 months wanting to like fucking kill yourself. And it's just a nightmare. And it definitely crosses my mind, like, if they give this to a certain type of reviewer who wants a certain type of thing in literature, then they're going to roast me. You know, that's like my biggest fear, because it's very easy to be like, oh, it's women's writing, it's emotional, it's hysterical, it's too much, right? And I really did think like, if they give this book to a super traditional male critic, there's a field day to be had, you know? And so it would be disingenuous for me to say that like, I don't still feel like that exists, you know? I think it does. Yeah.
I think, yeah, I definitely agree with you, Sarah. I think maybe in a way, even like maybe going for like historical fiction was a way of kind of, you know, separating myself from that as well, or kind of giving myself a little bit of a break, because I was just like, yeah, I don't know, this idea of with the water cure was really bad as well, especially because I was like young and it was longlisted for the Booker, which is like totally amazing. It was such a great thing, but then like a lot of people were like very harsh on me, and there was a lot of talk about like, you know, this book doesn't deserve to be on the long list, specifically because it's like a silly like little book written by babies and written by, you know, a hysterical girl. And I was like, I did find that challenging. I got like very obsessed, and I found I won't go into it, but I found like online posts and stuff, and I was reading like people's opinions, and I was like, why am I getting so like caught up in people's opinions of this? And so I think that kind of almost gave me a thicker skin, like just by kind of virtue of exposing me to that idea. Yeah,
we kind of brushed on this on the perception side, but it's like, you know, there's a difference between like feedback and failure. And it's like, I can open Goodreads any minute of the day and read something that is self-harm, like literally someone who's like, she's not well, like she needs to go to therapy, this book sucks, blah 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 blah. But is that failure, or is it just like feedback from a person who has a thought? It's like, you know, you do have to eventually separate yourself from it, because otherwise you just wouldn't do it anymore. You know, like you just wouldn't keep writing. And it's crazy because like, I don't know if at any other time in history we've had such immediate feedback to reader responses to things, right? Like somebody at least had to write Shakespeare a letter and be like, this fucking sucked, or like it had to come out in a bulletin once a month or whatever, you know what I mean? Like he didn't have to see it every minute of the day. And like,
be tagged in like a 1-star review on Instagram.
Oh my God, I know.
I was like on holiday and I was like just trying to have a nice time, and then it's like someone like tags me and I'm like, hey, literally these are my holiday shots and stuff, and like I want to just use Instagram for like fun. And it's like, why would you tell me about your 1-star review? Like,
oh my God, it was
like,
like
don't tag me. It's fine.
on TikTok, like post a 1-star review of your favorite book. And it's like, I go to therapy to not look at those. Please don't put them online and then tag me in them. I mean, it's fine to do that for dead people, right? Like if you want to post 1-star reviews of the Bible or the bell jar, it's like, okay, she's dead. You can't hurt her. But like, we still are alive.
I think sometimes people forget that, you know, there are real people behind the words, right, and behind the screens. So they feel like there's a sense of detachment, and they forget that actually you are reading these things and you can see them and you do feel things.
Like, I feel like it's kind of almost like a bit of like feedback. It's like, oh, this person maybe could like improve for the next book, but it's like, well, the book is like finished. I
love when they give you feedback to fix stuff and you're like, this already got printed like hundreds of thousands of times. It's too late. But it has given me way more empathy for other people who write books, even books I might not love, because it's like, if you can get through the process, my hat is off to you. Like if you can get to the point where the book is published and on shelves, that's a huge accomplishment. And I will talk shit, but like in a critique way, but I will never really bag on anyone because it's just such a hard industry that, like, you know, no one needs me to yell at them about how bad their book is. They can just open Goodreads.
So one, yeah, I know that we've gone over by a few minutes, but I really enjoyed, someone was asking if you are if you're into astrology, what signs do you feel your characters are?
I'm a Pisces. I don't know what she is. She's just a disaster. Whatever sign is a total shit show.
I'm a Scorpio. I think they're probably all Scorpio. Scorpio Aries mix.
Yeah, oh my God. Then I think mine's a Pisces Aries mix, maybe. Pisces Leo, I guess, is what I probably what she is.
Cool.
Bless you, bless you.
I always wrap up any events I'm hosting by asking what books you are reading currently, or have you just finished if you're in between books.
Oh, I am reading Penance by Eliza Clark right now, and I am gripped. I'm like, after this I'm gonna like eat some food and I'm gonna get into my bed. I'm just gonna finish it. But I feel like it's not.
My God, I'm so jealous. I still have to do like a whole day over here. I have to go to the dentist. I have meetings, and then I have to go to a book event for someone. I still have a whole.
It's so dark.
I saw it get dark, and I was jealous because I like the nighttime. I like when it's time to get in bed and read. I'm so jealous. Actually, like, I don't know why, but I've been like really pulled towards reading things that got adapted. So I've just been reading like anything that's become a book or a movie. But I just finished. I actually really loved it. I read Let the Right One In, which like I had never seen it as a movie, but as a book, it's like really lovely. It's kind of done in like flash vignettes, and it's like lots of characters, and I don't know, I found it like very beautiful. And then obviously like there's bigger literature stuff that I'm reading to blurb that, you know, but yeah, I'm like giving myself a brain vacation right now. I'm reading some like murder mysteries. I don't know why.
I think that's totally fair enough. Let the Right One In is one of my all-time favorite books. I love it.
Wait, really? No one ever says that to me. I'm always like saying it, and then everyone's like, well, okay, you're reading that. Okay.
Yeah, I love it so much. Well, thank you both so much.
I think we have to pick our favorite question.
Yeah, so yeah, if you guys could pick your favorite question, and we can let that person know that they've won.
I think for me it's Chloe, who asked about whether the void is chasing us.
Yeah, I like that one too.
There you go. Well done, Chloe. Thank you both so much for your time.
Thanks for having us. Sophie, I miss you. Hunter, thank you for everything.
Thank you so much for having us. It's been great to chat. Thank you for everyone coming.
I'll see you soon. Thanks for.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for coming, y'all.
Everyone, thank you.